Welcome to my channel. My name is Angela, and I am a spiritual healer and guide here to help you transform your life. Today, we're going to talk about energetic hygiene. This is something that I personally did not discover until just last year. While I have been on a journey, as far as my mental health goes, my entire life, I was never introduced to this concept. I sort of stumbled upon it myself. But once you learn about it, it actually makes a lot of sense. And it's not as complicated as you might think at first. So basically, energetic hygiene, they're foundations for emotional clarity, nervous system regulation, and inner stability. So it just helps you feel better, keeps you grounded in your energy. You have both heart energies as well as mind energies that flow through your system, and they connect through your chakra system. And your chakra system runs throughout your body. It's not something that you can see, it's an energetic structure. But there are several that run throughout your body, and that is part of what we will discuss to help keep your energies flowing freely. Emotions are energy in motion. Thoughts are also an energy. So, very important to feel mentally and emotionally sound to understand. So, this is a safe space. It's non judgmental, practical, and accessible to everyone. You don't need to believe in anything. It really is just about learning how your emotional and your nervous system works. So, why this matters: if you're like me, you were never taught how to process emotions, how to regulate your nervous system, or how to protect your energy in a stressful environment. I have struggled with anxiety my whole entire life up until this last year. It was a constant, everyday, sometimes all day problem. It was just like I had this background, underlying feeling of discomfort all the time. And then it would flare up in certain situations, and make me feel a lot worse. But I would say that my baseline, like emotional state in life, up until just very recently in the last year, was like annoyed. Like I just always felt annoyed with life and with everyone. And I couldn't find my joy. I forgot what it was like to be happy. I kind of lost my sense of humor. And I attribute this partly to being on psych meds. They are designed to cut you off from your emotion. So that's basically what happens when you take them long enough. I started taking them because I couldn't control it. And eventually you just sort of become numb. Um, Anxiety never fully goes away. That's really the only emotion that it can't silence. If you've ever noticed, like benzos will help in the moment some of the time, but until you decode the signal, it always comes back. So the result, if you're not energetically aware, is anxiety, burnout, emotional overwhelm, and being in relationships with patterns that repeat. Um, Depression is oftentimes the result of energetic unawareness as well as misalignment. And what I mean by that is alignment of your energies. So your thought energy and your heart energy going in opposite directions. If we're in a job that we hate and our heart's telling us something else, our heart's not putting its energy into that job. It's all on mental energy. So you wonder why you're drained. You can train the brain to follow the heart. And I'll talk more about that as well. So, my turning point, I talked a bit about it already. I was medicated from 15 to 40. We have a friend here that's going to visit. I was numb, living on autopilot, and ready for a change. I woke up one day and was like, wow, I haven't had a mental breakdown in a few years. That's cool. Go me. But then I was also like, but I'm always in a bad mood. And my life wasn't bad. I had a business that I was building in an area that I was good at and enjoyed, a relationship that was the healthiest I had ever had. But I started to realize I was settling. Like, it was healthy and he would treated me well, but it still wasn't everything that my heart really wanted. So I just started taking a look at my life, I realized that I had emotional overwhelm and sensitivity. The traditional approaches were not really helping, like medication. What was I going to do? I was on 5 meds at the time. The last thing I wanted was another fucking pill. I wanted no pills. So really that was kind of my decision, as I decided to go off everything and research more about thoughts and emotions and what to do about them. And my discovery led me to learning about body awareness, understanding that sensation in the body is guidance, emotions are messages oftentimes, and especially anxiety. It's almost always a message. And when we learn to decode the message, same thing with the trigger. If a person is triggering you and you're getting angry, what's under that anger? That is what you need to address. And when you address the underlying emotion, the anger dissipates. And eventually, I mean, there's always going to be things that kind of upset you, sure, but I hardly ever get angry anymore. So it is possible to train your brain and your body out of reaction. So regulation before reaction is key. Getting out of that impulse mode where you're quick to fly off the handle when your buttons are pushed. Being able to be aware that your buttons are being pushed and analyze, why do I feel this way right now? What's going on inside of me? What do I need to tend to? Your triggers are your medicine. So, back to again, what is energetic hygiene? It's basically daily emotional balance, just like brushing your teeth, but for your inner world. Helps you feel calm, think clearly, respond instead of react, and maintain emotional boundaries. So, exercise is a form of energetic hygiene. I want to be clear here in that all exercise is not treated equally, and that a big part of my struggle with exercise was always the stuff that I was introduced to, I didn't really have any interest in. I did not like anything sports wise because I'm not a competitive person. You put the competition in it and it takes the fun out of it for me. I did not like to run. It made me too tired and it made my head hurt. I was never into weightlifting. I never wanted to be sculpted. That was boring to me. I can't do anything really for very long without getting bored. I did realize how much I love nature. And so now most of my exercise is very basic stuff done outside, because when you do your exercise on the earth, especially if you could be barefoot, your results are much greater because the earth is very supportive of the way that our bodies work and helps keep you grounded. So I'll talk more about that as well. Emotions are information. They are not the problem. They are signals. And what happens when we stuff our emotions? Chronic stress, physical tension, emotional shutdown, explosive reactions. Stuffing is not healthy. And I understand that our society has been teaching that for years. I actually grew up in a household where I was told, don't cry. If you cry, I'll give you something to cry about. So I learned to stuff very, very young. And it followed me into my adult years. And I don't remember any of my 20s. I don't remember most of my life until about 33 or so, because it's been about 10 years where my memories are pretty steady. Prior to that, there's lots of reasons why they're not there. A big part of it in my 20s anyway was not being connected in nature. My childhood was traumatic, which is why I don't remember it. But stuffing my emotions throughout my whole childhood, that cuts off your energy. So I have since been able to recall my energy back from these traumatic moments that I had as a child by witnessing my own pain, holding space for myself. And when you do that, it like releases this block that's been in your system. So depending on the type of trauma, it's in a different chakra, it sits in a different chakra. And when you release, you process the pain through inner child healing, it's amazing. You get it all back. So, more about the nervous system. Your body is always scanning for safety. Sometimes we get stuck in fight or flight mode, fight, flight, or freeze. I think fawning is one they've added in where it's like distracting, lying, that kind of thing. You cannot think your way out of dysregulation. You must work with the body first. And this is why I don't understand why all meds, like, they focus on the brain and then they never incorporate. I never learned anything about body work and how important it is to move your body in certain ways so that the emotion can move through it. And there's a few tips that I will give you as far as movement that I find helpful. Dancing is my favorite form of movement, and it's just free dancing. And if you keep your legs rooted to the ground instead of dancing around the room and you just let your body move up and down and stretch and twist, amazing release. More about that later. So, common signs of overload. What happens if we have ungrounded energy, if we're not doing energetic hygiene regularly? You end up feeling drained after conversations. So, especially if you have like that friend who always seems to be in some sort of dramatic moment, or they're super dramatic and they're dumping their feelings on you, and you don't mind being there for this friend, but you feel so exhausted afterwards. Well, it's because they're draining your energy because you're not protecting your energy. Same thing if you get into an argument with someone, where you get like a really heated debate. Anytime you put emotion forward, like that leaves you. So you're going to feel drained. Absorbing other people's emotions is something that I discovered was actually my main problem in life. I have the energy field that's very porous, so it's like a sponge. And if I'm not aware of that and taking care of that, I will soak up the energies of the whole room. So I used to think I had really bad social anxiety because I literally could hardly ever go anywhere, or I would get there and then I would feel anxious and need to leave. And I really was never helped with that. They've tried to give me different drugs, but nothing ever works. And you can't take Xanax all the time. So I really just had to learn to live with the feeling, not knowing what it was. But what I found out is that when you learn to clear and control and protect your energy, so you have like a field, an energy field that surrounds your body that's invisible. Think of it as like, Wi-Fi signals that broadcast. Well, your heart sends out signals, your brain sends out signals. You just can't. Some people can read auras and energy, but most people can't see them, but they're still there. So what happens when you're around other people? Their shit becomes your shit real quick, especially if you've had trauma and you haven't healed from it and you don't know, you don't have awareness of your system. A lot of us are familiar with the idea that bad moods are contagious. Well, they only are if you're unaware. You can stop the absorption, is the good news. So more on that later. More common signs of overload: overthinking. We get stuck in thought loops if we don't have control of our brains. That's a big one that took me a while to break. People pleasing. We think we need to be everything for everybody else. And then, of course, emotional numbness. When you try to avoid the bad feelings, you don't get the good ones either. So core skill number 1 is awareness. I already discussed this. The first step is noticing. So noticing the energy. So the next time you find yourself triggered, this is what you will look for, is where the emotion where do you feel it in your body? Is your chest tight? Are you having trouble breathing? Is there a lump in your throat? Is it in your jaw? Is your stomach in knots, or is it nauseous? Because each of these things are telling you something different. So here's a practice that you can do. You can do it now. If you think back to a most recent time of an emotional flare-up, so somebody or something triggered you, maybe you had a bout of anxiety or a conversation with your mother and she just drives you nuts. So think of that moment in your mind and just take a couple deep breaths while thinking about that moment and that feeling. And now, instead of thinking about the what that was happening or what was said, I want you to feel where it's sitting in your body and notice any tension in that area. So if you're getting a knot in your stomach, just put your palm there. If it's in your chest, just put your hand on your chest over your heart. Bring awareness to that spot. And now imagine tension decreasing with your breath. So sometimes I also tell people, especially if you're right in the moment of something and suddenly you're just like, oh, my heart is so heavy, squeeze all the muscles around whatever area, except for the throat is kind of hard, but you can use your hand and like put light pressure on your throat if your lump is in your throat. But wherever it is in your body, squeeze that area and then release. And just send yourself kindness and send yourself love and just observe what's happening without fixing. And then you would want to note any thoughts or emotions that come up after you do this, because you've now set it into your heart. So initially it's in your brain. And when you're feeling it in your body, when you're checking on the body intelligence, you have the ability to tap into your heart energy or your heart consciousness to find out what's really going on. Because most of the time, whatever we're triggered about, what actually bothers us is something totally different, oftentimes from our childhood, and we just don't know because we're so focused on what happened, what was said, rather than how we actually feel. So that's a great practice that you can use anytime you are triggered. So another skill is grounding. So get grounded. You want to be grounded all the time. Being grounded is basically how you discharge any excess energy. And you can do this by, the best way to do it is to be outside on the earth, bare feet. But you can also sit in your house, feet flat on the floor, breathe deeply, and just imagine roots going from your feet through the floor into the earth. Your imagination is powerful. Combine that with closing your eyes, breathing deeply, using sensory awareness. Helps for some people. Some people like to light incense or listen to music. There's certain types of music that are more grounding than others. You don't want to listen to anything with angry lyrics. If you can find something without lyrics or with uplifting lyrics, that's better. Sunlight and nature are amazing, amazing tools. They are both medicinal. The best time to get sunlight is the first 30 minutes after sunrise and the last 30 minutes before sunset. Those are the healthiest rays. But 10 to 20 minutes at any time during the day, if you do that every day, I can promise you that alone will change your mood. All of these things bring the nervous system back to safety when you're grounded. So if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling antsy, if you're feeling amped, get grounded. We just did the exercise. So now another skill we have are boundaries. So you are not responsible for regulating everyone. You have to learn to have compassion without absorption. And the way you do that is by pausing before you react. So take yourself to, that friend that you're going to go and meet for coffee or a walk or what have you. And you know that every time you see Susie, she had some latest drama that she's going to dump on you. And it doesn't really matter what it is. But if you prepare yourself before you go, she won't be able to drain you. And how you do that is you just sit quietly, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. And as you're breathing, you picture a protective shield. Picture your energetic shield that's around you turning into white light because it's made out of light. It's just at a level that we can't see with our eyeballs. But that's your protection. Stop it, guys. Sorry, they're interrupting. Picture a white shield around you. And then when you go with your friend, anytime you start to feel her tension, her anxiety, her stress, imagine the shield, take a few deep breaths, come back to yourself. With practice, it will work every time. Yes, come on up here. Come on. So reflect for a moment. Where in your life do you feel the most drained? So I'd like you to think about that and understand something. I have remade my life 5 or 6 times. I haven't exactly counted them all, but I know there's been a bunch. The first one was when I was 12 years old. And what I've learned in retrospect, after looking back at all of the times that I've, like, if it was a breakup or it was a new job, so a career pivot, like you're ending one thing and starting something new, right? The first sign that you need to change your life is tiredness and boredom. So if suddenly this job that used to, thrill you or excite you is boring, is annoying, is just not doing it for you, if you're tired, if you feel like you need a nap on your lunch break or right when you get home from work, that's your first sign that it's time for a change. Same goes for people and relationships. Not all people are supposed to be in your life forever. Some people become a drain and they need to be let go. The next sign after the removal of energy, right? So your soul is removing energy from things that it wants to change. I've done this with multiple jobs. That's the first thing that happens. Oh, I'm suddenly tired all the time. And I ignore it. I push through it because that's what we do. We drink more coffee. We get on energy drinks. I was on Adderall for years because, yes, of course I have ADHD. I would go to sleep right after taking it and right after having coffee. Like, what? The next sign, if you don't pay attention to the boredom, the lack of motivation, and the lack of energy, is anxiety. And I've pushed through despite the anxiety because I've dealt with anxiety my whole life. So I just learned to push through it. But that's your soul trying to get you to pay attention to something. And I'll have a whole other video on anxiety and intuition and how you confuse the two, because not everything is anxiety. Oftentimes it's intuition and you're just confused. So your shadow and emotional flow. Suppressed emotion becomes triggers, patterns, relationship cycles. Healing allows emotion to move. So we all have shadows, and really all that means is it's a part of yourself that you choose to ignore, you choose to downplay, silence, what have you. Parts of yourself you're maybe not proud of. We all do it. But those are still parts of you. And I have created a pathway that involves shadow work, ego dissolution, because allowing your ego to dissolve allows your heart to take charge, and it's a whole new ball game in life. And somatic practice to release stuck emotion. And that basically heals your inner child, allows you to integrate your shadows or all parts of yourself. And when you heal through your trauma, you unblock your chakras, so your main energy line, and then emotions can flow freely. And you won't get stuck in them because it's able to flow. So daily energetic hygiene is important. Morning, midday check, and bedtime is what I suggest. I know it's a lot for people to start all 3 at once, so please just start with 1 per day. Do that for a week and then add another one. And here's a list of just a few samples: meditation, qigong, somatic dance, salt baths, breath work, yoga, sound bath, walk in nature. There's lots of things that you could do. And sometimes, like 3 times a day sounds like a lot, but I'm talking like 10 minutes each time. That's not much. You do lots of things for 10 minutes during the day. And you'd be imagined was what happens when you're doing this is you're focusing your energy on yourself, on your healing, instead of whatever mundane topic. And you will learn that when you learn to take control of your energy and you think of it as a sacred currency and stop giving it to things that don't serve you, your energy comes back and life gets pretty magical. So, what changes when you practice? A sense of calm, clarity, stronger boundaries, better relationships, more energy, emotional resilience. You basically learn to reconnect with your inner child and learn that your heart's desires are quite important and quite powerful. And I lived in my mind for a very long time. I let my brain make all the logical decisions in my life. I ignored what my heart wanted. And every time it led me into another spiral of anxiety and depression by letting my brain choose. So I learned to stop doing that. It does take some practice, but you can do it. And living from your heart and being energetically aware kind of makes you a superhuman. So this is only the beginning. If you're interested in energetic hygiene, this is a skill, not a quick fix. Growth happens with practice, community, and support. You really do have to commit to doing things differently, getting in nature more, taking time for yourself, and realizing that you are worth it. And your energy really is currency. What you focus on is what you get in life. Just think about that. Energy flows where attention goes. So if you're always worried about the past or you're always worried about the future, you're going to get more instances in life that are giving you another reason to worry. But if you can learn to live in the moment and be present, life unfolds a lot differently. My invitation to you, if you would like more support, is to join one of my support groups, get some deeper training. Both of these would lead to ongoing emotional mastery. And it's the first step in transforming your life. Remember, you are not broken. You are learning a language that you were never taught. Your emotions, your energy is more powerful than you think. Until next time, Energy Part 2 will be out in a couple days.